a combined, a hybrid Zoom and in-person meeting. So we may have technical suggestions or other kinds of things. So Chris and Peter, with Peter's assistance, are working out that stuff.
A little bit.
We have a few people on Zoom now, and I don't know if we can cut away to see them at all. We're going to maybe experiment with that at some point. So if you lose my ugly...
Cameras are off, so.
Okay, but that may happen. You might lose my ugly mug and find people back there. And of course, we have to figure out how to deal with questions and things like that. So your forbearance for anything that may go wrong technically with this. I have not planned a full agenda for this thing. It's basically questions and answers, and I tried to get the people that know a lot more than I do about it here. So Dan Neuer and Russ Stoley are here to be the kind of the technical people, and James, who is now the council rep for all the building and property issues, is here to talk about anything else that may come up. Let's see, Chris, could we get the slide of the motion? And I'll start there. At the last council meeting, the council decided to present the congregation with a motion to go ahead and do the roof. The motion asks for $304,000 to repair certain areas, and then we also need to create an interior access to the roof. That's code. It's also convenience and common sense. And to put up an architectural barrier or fence to have a safety rail along part of the roof. That's as I understand it. The church also has a lot of other things that need to be done or would be nice to have done. And because of that, and because we didn't have time, we thought, on the congregational meeting agenda or in the council work to create a real funding plan for the whole project, the whole set of projects, the council decided to forward the motion as to be funded by borrowing against the Rose Stetzler money. That doesn't mean that the Rose Stetzler money is what would be used to pay for all of that, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't either. We just decided that it would be in the interests of time and getting the roof done to kind of defer that conversation. At this point, I want to just show a couple of pictures of what's going on up there on the roof. This is just to get you in the mindset. Most of you have never been up there. Dan can probably explain, or Russ, what's going on with that, but you can see some stuff that just for the layman's eye doesn't look quite right with that roof, and it has been leaking off and on over the years. Next slide. And we have a number of installations on the roof that some of which would need to be a similar kind of an installation would need to be created in another part of the roof due to some other projects that are going on. So it's a complicated project, but it needs to be done. And I'm going to just stop here now and open it up for questions. Yes? Oh, for the folks here in the sanctuary, I want to say the studio, but the sanctuary, we need to get a microphone. So go ahead.
Are you proposing a stair or a ladder?
Is that for the interior stair? Is it a ladder or a stair?
Dan can describe it best.
It would be an interior ship's ladder.
Okay.
That's commonly used. Steel. Enclosed in a closet, more or less, so nobody will know it's there, and it will be locked from the inside.
Other questions?
If you want to invite the Zoom people to wave their hand.
Okay. Our support team here is saying that you guys that are on Zoom, if you would raise your virtual hand so that you can get our attention, you can go ahead and either ask a question or put it in the chat. Pardon me?
Maisie Neely wants this.
Okay, Maisie.
I have one question. We have, am I on mute?
We hear you.
You hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. When we have $300,000 from Rose's estate, why are we asking the same people practically over again for 300 more thousand? We've gone through this way too many times. And it seems like it's been done piecemeal. We just can't keep it up. We have the money. Why can't we use it? I feel like if Rose wanted it to go to affordable housing, she would have given it to Roseville to do that. She gave it to Prince of Peace. We have the money, and she gave it to us to use. And I do not understand why we are trying to give that money away.
Well, let me give you my answer to that first, and then if anybody else wants to express a thought on that, we'll invite them to a microphone. First of all, this motion doesn't say that we will not spend the Stetzler money for the roof, and it does not say that we will spend the money for the roof. It says that we will defer that discussion until we have had a chance to look at all of the proposed projects and other things that are going to demand resources from Prince of Peace and make a decision at that time. So that decision hasn't been made. Let me just say a thing about why it hasn't been made in part is because when the Rose Stetzler bequest became available, Prince of Peace established a process with the Generosity Committee to consider ways to spend that. That Generosity Committee process got suspended because of the pandemic and because we couldn't gather the congregation together, and that committee didn't feel they could get the input that they needed to make recommendations on how that money should be used. So that kind of got suspended, and at this point, I believe I can speak for the council that it seems to be not really respecting that process if we went ahead and decided to spend the Rose Stetzler money for a specific purpose without giving the congregation a chance to weigh in on all the ways that could be used.
No, but I
and
feel
that
like
discussion is just too big a one to have at this time when we're trying to get a roof going. Anybody else want to respond to that?
Maisie had she was,
Hang on a second.
yeah, Maisie.
Oh, Maisie wants to respond? Okay.
well, I just wondered why we can't keep it as, or why is the council or determined to give that money away? I just cannot understand. The
Well,
money was donated to the church. Why wouldn't it be, can't it be considered?
That point of view is among those that will be considered
Okay.
later on this fall when we have a special meeting to consider how we're going to pay for our projects and use the Stetzler money. So no decision has been made. There is a wide variety of opinion, I think, among the congregation for that. So stay tuned. We are not making a decision to spend the Rose Stetzler money or not to spend the Rose Stetzler money, but simply to borrow against it because it's there and we need to get the roof done. Okay.
On? I wrote a late,
Oh, could you identify yourself, please? For the,
Rick Rothhausen.
okay, thank you.
And I wrote a comment to the thing. I don't know if it even got up there yet. I just did it today. Maisie, this is a counterpoint to your point. I probably wouldn't be here if the council had done that. I'm looking for an active congregation that wants to do something, or can at least consider something. Let me put it that way. The decision has not been made, as was said. But I believe it's an outrageously generous thing that the Affordable Housing Committee is considering. looking to the foundation of this Christian religion, I believe there was a lot of outrageous generosity back then. I personally would hate to see a church turning totally in on itself. And I think that the congregation probably could handle at least a portion of the roof. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Again, just to reiterate what you just heard Rick say and Maisie, your point of view, are discussions that we will have and that the whole congregation will have an opportunity to be involved in before we make final decisions on how the diesel money is used or what kind of capital campaign we have or borrowing or whatever the funding mix might be.
Paul,
Yes. I was wondering, the committee that was getting the affordable housing together, one of the things that I understand in that process was that we end up selling the property to the contractor. Is there any guesstimate on what that amount of money would be coming back into the church?
Again, excellent question, but one which will require the time we can take at an annual, a special meeting later in the fall to answer. There are a lot of factors that go into that, and it's beyond the scope of our decision to pay for the roof at this time.
Hi, Dave Olson. My question is, my understanding is we had to tie roof with the air conditioning with potential solar in a particular order so we don't void warranties and that. Does the issue we have with the roof right now jump that to the forefront, and it's going to, that the rest of the order is going to be disrupted?
The council made a decision based on the assumption that it would be possible to get a warranty that would cover a subsequent installation, but Russ Stoley has had some conversations and maybe has, well, I know he has a lot better information than I do, so, Russ?
What we found out from the one vendor that we were referred to when we were looking into the solar panels was that there's a special insulation that's put in underneath the roof that is made so that if solar panels are ever installed, it's there. And from our understanding when we met with them, most contractors, when you talk to them, most roofing contractors will do that, and they're aware of it. They've done enough of this that they know exactly what they need to do. The second part of that is, if we do need to make penetrations into that roof in the future, or repairs or what have you, if we have the vendor, same vendor that installed it, do those repairs, they will re-warranty the roof. They will keep the warranty intact for the original roof. So we're not tied into having to do everything right away with the roof or before the roof.
Thanks, Russ.
Could I ask a question?
Oh, Roger has a question.
Let's see, who do we have?
Looks like Roger.
Roger? Oh,
Yeah, could we hear a little bit more about the history of the roof? What has happened over the past years and what's happening now that brought this up at this particular time?
Dan and Russ, that sounds like a you question. Anybody want to?
Roger, could you restate that one time?
a little bit about the history of the roof, what's going on now, what has happened in the past years, what has brought us to this particular time that we're acting upon this today.
Okay. The majority of the area of the roof we're talking about was associated with the gym addition. It was installed in roughly 1995 with a 25-year lifespan expectancy. And right now, the raised in the picture on the screen, the raised portion of that roof was put on at the same time as the gym. It's a structural roof to support additional snow load created by the height of the gym. In the winter, you get the winds, and it creates snow load on above and beyond what the original roof would have carried. And around that raised roof, there's a metal edge, and it's called a gravel. And what it does is it keeps the gravel from coming off the upper roof.
Oh, do you want to stand over here a little bit so it works better?
And okay, so that gravel stop, it's put on over an actual waterproof roof, but it has to be done a lot faster. And as that metal shrinks and grows with the cold and the heat, it fractures the roof. And where you see the shiny spots on the roof, that's become the weak point of the roof. And every year or so, we've had to patch that based on the expansion and contraction of the roof. It pulls it apart and creates a leak. And that's a leak over the entrance to the reception room. And there's been 3 or 4 other places that we've patched, and those have actually held. But the weak point is that wide area you see in the middle of the picture. So between the roof fracturing because of its age, there's also been some breakdown of the insulation, which helps drain the water certain directions. So there's been puddling, and that's the dark spot you see on the roof. So in answer to your question, the North X roof was done in 2011, and the rest of all the flat roofs go back to 1995. And that is the reason this is of concern.
Thank you.
Hope that answers your questions.
Okay.
Nobody else online? Or just, are they sitting there? Or
No, there's no questions.
no questions, okay, but they're still there, okay.
Oh.
So,
Judy, go ahead and open your mic.
Judy?
I have a question. Have materials or processes improved so that we're always going to have that expanding and contracting with our weather? So how will a new roof help that or change that? Are there new materials or a new way to do it or something, or will the same thing happen again? Because we're always going to have the expanding and contracting.
Back to Dan.
Hi, Judy, good question. Actually, there are 4 types of roofing available on the market today. One is a PVC roof, and that's been out for 5 years. There's another vinyl roof that's a TPO roof that's only been out about 10 years. There's a rubber roof for 30, 35, and the old standby is the asphalt roof. And based on today's pricing, the asphalt roof is, you know, no mic.
Find standing where Michael's talking.
You got it. Keep going.
You can come up to here too. Okay.
In talking to the roofers, like they have told me, the only people that have asphalt roofs anymore is the state. All 4 roofs basically carry the same lifespan of 20 to 25 years, and that's what the warranty is. And the cheapest will probably be rubber, and then the next in line will be the TPO or the PVC, and the asphalt is probably out of our reach at this time. The solar people are recommending a white roof, which takes it to PVC, TPO, or rubber, due to the light reflectancy and a white roof. So we will be choosing one of those based on the price when we know exactly that this is approved and we can put it out for pricing. With the economy, material prices are going up and down daily, and contractor quotes or proposals are only good for a week these days. So we have to have the money approved before we can really get bids. And that's where we stand. Hope that answers your question.
I'll give it back to you shortly. It's fine. You're fine.
Are there any other questions? Well, I want to thank you for tuning in, showing up. This has been, I think, a relatively successful experiment at holding a hybrid Zoom in-person meeting. Christopher Thornton is looking at me like, yeah, maybe. So we look forward to seeing you all Sunday, and we'll do this as best we can on Sunday. Thank you. Thank you all.